Welcome to r/confessions, where we get to hear the most disturbing confessions of Reddit. I have a severe drug problem that nobody knows about. Sorry if this is a shit post, but I've never admitted this to anyone, and I just needed to tell someone because no one has any idea how bad this is. I'm single because my addiction has always been more important than finding a girlfriend/wife, and I moved away from family years ago. My success has been the worst thing to happen to me. I've somehow climbed the corporate ladder, and the more money I make, the worse this gets. I make $200,000 a year and I'm dead broke. I swear to anyone reading this that I'm not throwing that out there to try to brag about how much money I make. I'm putting it out there because it's mind-boggling to me that I could be broke and in debt. My car is in the shop and I don't know if I'll have enough money to get it fixed. My boat goes to auction next week because I couldn't pay the storage fees. I'm over my head in credit card debt. Cocaine and hookers is a funner thing people say. It's literally ruining my life and no one has any idea. Thanks for letting me get this off my chest. I lied to my teacher about my being abused by my parents. I don't know why, but in the 8th grade I was somewhat depressed. I think it was because I didn't have too many friends, and girl I went to blocked me on Facebook because I kept sending her messages saying I loved her but never said anything to her in school. Anyway, I told my teacher, 8th grade teacher, that I was being abused at home. I mean, I was like 13 at the time, so I knew better. She asked if I wanted to get the authorities involved, and then I sort of cried and begged him not to because I didn't want to get in foster care, and he never told CPS or anything. At the time I didn't realize just how messed that was. I mean, yes, I didn't have the best axiomatic with my parents, especially my mom, because she was more strict, but my parents never touched or even verbally abused me in any way. There were kids that probably were actually being abused in my very class, but out here I'm lying and being a total dumbass. I know nothing happened, but I feel like shit just thinking about it. I took part in the Rwandan genocide and am technically a war criminal. Growing up, my family was poor, dirt poor before Belgium came and fucked our country. The Hutus were living in servitude to the Tutsis. We farmed for them and they would give us cattle. Where Belgium came, they took the ones who were whiter and taller, the Tutsis, and put them over us. It was a miserable existence for any Hutus at the time. When Belgium left, they put the Hutus in charge. Our Hutu government had proclaimed that the Tutsis were inferior, that they were cockroaches. 17-year-old me lapped it up. Our Tutsi neighbors seemingly had loads of cash and wealth, and we were poor. It started off with me and my family listening to RTLM, the anti-Tutsi Radi system, but it slowly grew more than that. Soon we were taking part in Hutu pride parades, wearing Interahamwe tunics and shirts. I'll never forget the day my papa brought home matches and passed them out to me and my brothers. He told us that soon the Tutsi cockroaches would receive their comeuppance. I was riled up, my friends were too. One day, my papa told me that today was a big day. He gathered the whole family and some Hutu neighbors up around the radio. He told us to bring our machetes. The broadcast was normal until the middle, when the radio told us Kupale Grand Zabas maintenance. We instantly began attacking our Tutsi neighbors. I personally cut down 2 little girls across the street from us. Not an hour later did I join up with George's Rutaganda and head to his compound. We went on raids during the day, dumping the corpse of our victims in trenches, sometimes leaving their bodies on the street. We raped, we looted, we killed, we burned a church with people inside. I knew it was wrong. I did, but I was too late to stop then. It didn't even last 100 days, but it felt like a long time. When the RPF started to grow closer to the capital, multiple of them Interahamwe brethren fled in fear of them. My father told me to leave the country so I would survive. I did, and went to Kenya and then to Yemen and finally moving to France, where I'm now. I regret what I did. I see that George's Rutaganda was charged with war crimes and died in prison. I guess I belong there, but I'm too scared to turn myself in. I hate what I did. I wish I didn't, and I wish I never took part in it. My papa was killed in a battle with the RPF, and I haven't seen my siblings since the first day of the genocide. I'm sorry. I slowly and subconsciously became abusive to someone I care about more than anything. IDK if I really needed a throwaway for this, but I'm pretty new to Reddit and so ashamed of this. I got into my first real relationship when I was 16. She was absolutely amazing and perfect in my eyes from the very start. I was way too shy to talk to girls and probably would have been single well into my 20s if not for this amazing girl asking me out. When she finally gave up on me, we had been dating for about a year and a half. Things went absolutely amazing for about 8ish months, as we had so much in common, including our social anxiety issues, loneliness, and need to feel loved. We always supported each other and tried our hardest to support each other in growing out of our social anxiety. After those 8ish months, things started to take a turn for the worse. I don't know how or why, but I became way too attached to her. She started making friends and growing out of her shell, and I guess that scared me. I'd grown so used to constant communication and affection from her that when she started outgrowing me, I felt the realest pain I've ever felt. It started out with a horrible feeling in the back of my mind that she was constantly lying to me and ignoring me, despite a complete lack of evidence to support that besides her messaging me less often. Even if there was evidence of that, my emotional abuse through screaming at her and eventually physical abuse obviously was horrible and inexcusable. I never had any history of anything like this, but it just happened without my realization. Over time, it got worse and worse. Basically the textbook definition of a toxic relationship. Her breaking up with me and me convincing her into getting back together with me time and time again. Eventually it escalated to the point that when we were in my truck arguing I saw red, and before I knew what was happening, I, a 250 pounds male, threw a full plastic water bottle at her face, causing a nasty bruise. She burst into tears and I immediately realized just what I had just done. Incidents like this happened a couple more times, until she finally had the confidence to leave me for good. It's been over a year now, and I'm glad to say that she's currently doing amazing without me in her life. She's several months pregnant with another man's child, and I'm so happy for her. I still pray for her happiness. I still absolutely love her, and I'm just now recovering from my broken heart and the crisis of understanding what compelled me to treat her the way I did. I will rightfully never forgive myself, and do not see myself as a true man anymore. Guess I just needed to let that out. If anyone reads this, thanks for taking the time. I'm so sorry, Dakota. I sucked my own pages when about 3 to 4 months back, and I can't get it off my chest. Okay, so to start off with everything, I'm 14 and this happened when I was 13, but about 6 months back, I just hit puberty back then, and was just super horny all the time. So as a guy who just hit puberty, I tried sucking my own pages cause everyone has done it. Why don't I try it? So I did. And I could suck it. And so I did till I almost ejaculated. And then when I needed to, I pulled out. I did this 4 to 5 times. Not 4 to 5 times a day, but from day to day. One day I was just super horny and just let it come in my mouth. As soon as it did, I spat it out. I hated the taste and just overall regretted it. The worst part about all this is that I was in a relationship when this all happened, so it just adds more to the already shitty thing that happened. This was also before I came out as a bi, and so I was just surprised then, and IDK how to get the guilt off my chest, because I now know ones, and I'm just trying to tell myself that I'll take it to the grave. But IDK how I can ever live with that? Can someone please help me with it? I'm very sure my friend went off the grid. Yes, you read that title correctly. Back in 2006, one of my best friends absolutely went off the grid and there was nothing we could do about it. For the story, we'll call my friend Bob. Bob and I went to college together and ended up moving into an apartment with a few other friends. Bob and I were like the brothers in our group. We trusted each other with certain things we couldn't tell others. He was very smart, used to go on study abroads, always finished the semesters up with Dean's List. But unfortunately for Bob, our group of friends was the only thing keeping him happy. He wasn't close with his family in the slightest. His sister was a drug addict along with his dad. His mother passed away when he was younger. He was going through school by himself with no help from his family. I remember when he came back from a study abroad in Australia, something changed in him. He said while he was down there he felt like he had this awakening, like he found himself. I told him he sounded batshit crazy. He told me being out of the country is a blessing for him, and he hated living where we did. He told us apart from us, there was nothing keeping him around. I suggested he maybe speaks to a therapist, but he refused. He started to distance himself from us, which we found odd, because this wasn't like him. He'd start coming home at very late hours even on weekdays, so my friends and I were concerned. I remember the last night I saw him. We all came home at 2 AM from the bar, and he told us he was going to stay up for a little. It was the happiest we'd seen him in a while. We all decided to crash, and the next morning he was gone. We texted him, called him, and no answer. That evening we called the cops and let them know our friend was missing. Our school put out a message about it along with the news in our city. What really screwed with us was a couple blocks away they found his social security card and ID cut in half. I couldn't eat, sleep, or do anything thinking something was not right here until the police told us our neighbor across the street had a surveillance system in the front yard that was pointed at our house. This video pretty much said it all. In the video you see Bob with a backpack walking down our driveway at 4 AM, and he turned around, stared at our rat for a good minute, then hopped in and self-parked in front of our place. He actually gave the neighbor's camera the finger before he jumped in. After a while the search was called off. He's an adult that ran away, and he was clearly out of the country with a different name. I think he met somebody on one of his study abroads and decided he liked it where he was. I mentioned Australia to law enforcement, but they told me if that's where he is there's nothing they can do. I asked the cops if anything was seen at the airport, but they weren't allowed to tell me. I think about him almost every day and why he took off. My parents received a postcard from the Amalfi Coast a few years ago, so we are very sure it was him. We called law enforcement, and they said nothing they can do. He's technically an adult who just moved away. Bob, I hope you're okay wherever you are. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing, as it really motivates me to make more of these videos. Have an amazing day.